Alrighty. It's Friday. It's 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm on my second coffee for the day already because I didn't get a good night's sleep last night. Or I did. I guess I did get a good night's sleep. I just didn't go to bed early enough for like 3 days in a row. So I'm tired. So we will see how today goes. Right. So today, taking a little bit of a break from. Hey AJ, good morning. Where are you from in the world? Out of interest, like I could have sworn you were based in the US, but I guess not. UK. Sorry. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. While we're chatting about time zones, I honestly was worried about switching to an earlier stream because one of the reasons I used to stream later on a Friday was to try and catch more US based folks. I mean, you can only catch so many on the East Coast, but my Friday afternoons are just not what they used to be, and I find that I'm better when I stream earlier. So I guess US folks will have to catch the recording. But cool, welcome. Always good to see you. All right, let's dive into what I have planned for today. So as I was saying, taking a break from local only AI stuff because I recently discovered that WordPress Studio has this little slash command that is based on the data liberation project. So let me find data liberation quickly. No, not that one. Actually, what? That's interesting. What is this? I want to see what that is. Talking about this one specifically. So I just want to read. Identify, obtain, reformat, clean document, publish, and disseminate government datasets. Probably interesting. So there's a project in the WordPress. There's a project in the WordPress project. I hate the fact that I used the word project there twice. But anyway, called data liberation. It was something that Matt announced a while ago. And really what the thinking behind this is just that if people want to move to WordPress, we should try and make it as easy as possible for them to do that. So currently, as far as I know, and I don't use any other web building platforms like Squarespace or Wix or any of those. I've only ever used, when it comes to CMSs, well, I've used other CMSs, but primarily I've used WordPress, and I've stuck with WordPress for a couple of years. But let's say you've built your first version of your site on something like Wix or Squarespace or whatever, and you decide you don't like the service or you don't like the pricing or whatever the case may be, and you want to migrate to WordPress. We should try and make it easy for folks to do that. So there was this whole idea around step-by-step migration guides and importing and exporting structured data. It's a browser extension that people are working on. And a lot of this was tied into using Playground. I think the browser extension, let's see what the browser extension does. The browser extension essentially uses Playground. As far as I know. Yeah, I think, yeah, there we go, WordPress Playground. So this uses WordPress Playground, and basically you connect it to your existing site and it like pulls the data into a Playground instance. Anyway, so that's one way that it's possible. But anyway, getting sidetracked here. Getting back to what I started with is WordPress Studio. WordPress Studio, I discovered recently, has a slash command called, let me find it here. It's inside, actually, so it's inside Studio Code, which is the agentic coding tool built inside of Studio. There is a / command called, where is it? Liberate. There we go. So Liberate essentially uses Studio Code to migrate and rebuild a site from whatever platform into WordPress. And so what I thought would be cool to do is to show you how that would work, how long it would take, depending on the size of the site, and whether it builds anything successfully. So I did test out Studio a little bit yesterday, and I've got some sort of basic idea of how it works. But essentially, if you have Studio running, you can create a new site. So actually, let me take one step back. So in order to prepare for today, I tried to find people who had sites hosted on other platforms that don't mind me using their sites as a demo. And I found this chap. I don't know if his name is on here, but I think his name is on his other site. It's a friend of a colleague. So a colleague at work has a friend who is doing these two sites. The one is Egg Chasers. This is all to do with rugby. I think it's this chap over here. Tim, I think his name is Tim. I apologize. I don't know what your surname is. But Tim manages this site, this Egg Chasers site. It's all about the 2026 South African Rugby Tour. South Africa, New Zealand, it's a whole thing here. So he's got this site, which I don't know what platform it's managed on, but it's not WordPress. And then he also runs something called South African Coffee Festivals, or the Coffee Festival Company. So it's the home of South Africa's most loved coffee events. And so if you're in South Africa, you can follow the site in different cities and all that kind of thing. So Tim was kind enough to let us use his sites to run this. So Tim, I really appreciate that if you do happen to watch this. So you can see that Egg Chasers is fairly straightforward. It's this sort of home page. There's a partner page. There is some social media links. Tickets takes us to an external site, so that's fine. So it's more info, takes us to an external site. So really it's just 2 pages. There's some form functionality, which it might need to recreate. So this is a nice sort of simple-ish site. When I say simple, I don't mean basic. I just mean it doesn't have a lot of content, a couple of pages. Coffee Fest, a little bit more complicated. So there's different pages for the different areas. There's an event gallery with some videos. There's a contact page. There's also some nice transition animations and that kind of thing. So a little bit more of a complex, not complex, but slightly more complex than Egg Chasers. So we'll see how that goes as well. Cool. So the way this works, I'm going to start with Egg Chasers. So the way this works is you create your site in Studio. So let's say build a new site. We'll go empty site. And then you give it a name. So I'll just call this Egg Chasers. I actually need to blow my nose. So I'm going to turn my mic off for a second and go off camera. Just give me a sec here. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so you create your site. I'm not going to worry about all the advanced settings. I'm just going to give it the site name. You add your site to Studio. And then you have 2 options to trigger this. So the one option is inside of the site page. There is Studio Code over there. And you can interact with the Studio Code agent, ask it to do things, whatever the case may be. These are the / commands. And there is the Liberate / command. So I'm going to let that run. because I want to show you kind of the first step that it does. So I'm going to hit send. While that's doing that, you can also, I'm going to do this over here. You can also, inside of the terminal, I'm going to make my terminal slightly smaller, move it over to the screen here, and maybe make the text a bit bigger, actually. I wonder what the font is on now. The font's on 14, so let's make that 16, just so that it's slightly bigger for, I will make it 18. Just so it's slightly bigger for here. Let's just exit out of this. Okay, that's a little bit better. So if you're following the terminal, you should be able to see what's going on there. So as I was saying, you can also go into the site in the terminal, and you can run Studio Code from there. It triggers the code interface. So this is very similar to Claude Code or Codex. And then from here, you have the same option to liberate a site. So you'll see here that there is essentially a Liberate skill. So let's just have a look here. So there's load the Liberate skill. It has a whole bunch of information. We'll look into that in a second. And essentially, it needs to know what we want to liberate. So you either provided a URL, so Wix, Squarespace, Webflow, Shopify, Hostinger, HubSpot, wherever the site is hosted. If it's not a WordPress site that you can easily just pull down, because GoDaddy does have their own website builder, I think. Weebly, HubSpot, those kind of places. If you're building on Canva, maybe that would work. I don't know. Or if you have a local directory path, so a folder of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, if there's time, I actually have some HTML that I generated for my personal site a while back. And I want to see how well Liberate does with that. But that's if I have time later, or maybe in a future stream. Once you've done that, it'll detect the platform, inventory the content, and then ask you which reconstruction paths you want. So I'll go into those when we get there, before doing any heavy extraction work. Okay. So typically what you would do, and I'm going to do this in the terminal just because I find the terminal quicker and easier. So I'm going to minimize this. So typically the way you would do this is you would just pull the URL, and then you would use the liberate command, and you would give it the URL to run with. Now I want to make sure that you can see the full terminal output as much as possible without my head getting in the way. So I'm going to do that. And so there we go. So / liberate the URL, and off we go. Now, in my testing of this command, this can take up to an hour, depending on the size of the site, depending on how much content there is. It needs to pull the structure, the layout. Structure now is kind of the same thing. Any styling, fonts, colors, images, videos. It tries to pull all of that stuff. So if it's a very media heavy site, it can take a while. If it's not a lot of media, it can be pretty quick. This is why I started with the EggChaser site, because there's not a lot of content going on here. So it should be pretty quick. But that's essentially what it's doing. Now, the one piece of feedback that I do have that I'm going to share with the Studio Code team is there is a lot of sitting and waiting while it does work. And it would be nice if it gave you either something to read just to check on the updates. I know it's kind of hard because it's basically just doing things in the background. But you kind of have to basically set it off and go do something else. And that's the other problem with doing this in a live stream, is now we have to sit and watch the screen. So what I thought we would do is actually go and have a look at what this is actually doing and what is all running this in the background. Because what's cool about this is if you decide you want to do this yourself, you can actually go and follow the code. I'm not going to update PHP Storm now. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if I go and I open, no, not that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And there is the Studio codebase. So if you go into packages, there is the data liberation agent. So this code is all publicly available. If I go to github.com, automatic studio, all the code is there. There's the packages. There's the data liberation agent. So you can go and check out what this thing is doing. But essentially, if I open up the data liberation agent, there is a README. And this talks about exactly what this agent is doing, how it works, what it does. I'm going to just close down all of these things here. One of the things I really don't like about PHP Storm is all of these messages that pop up. I need to figure out how to turn them off. Anyway, so it talks about the problem, the solution, and it talks about where to host WordPress. So it says if your current provider also offers WordPress, you can move to WordPress and stay with them. WordPress.com is another option because obviously this product is developed by Automatic. So of course we're going to promote our own hosting. But essentially these are the support sort of officially supported platforms. So there's the GoDaddy website builder, the Hostinger website builder, HubSpot, Shopify, Squarespace, Webflow, Weebly, Wix, and then any other website is like kind of best effort. So you'll see that all 8 platforms have MCP adapters. So it looks like it works with MCP and connects to those MCP adapters. If you have an e-commerce site, it can export products as well, apparently. And it sort of talks through, all of the things that are available. You can install this agent in Claude Code if you would like to, which means you could theoretically install this into Codex or any other tool that you like. I mean, you could probably pull this. It has an agents MD, so you could probably just pull this into your local platform and say, hey, I want to use this. So you could even have this in Claude Code if you prefer. So yeah, pretty cool that, I think it's pretty cool that all of this is open source, available. Our goal is not to lock you into Studio if you don't want to. Our goal is to give you tools to be able to move to WordPress if you want to. Cool. So let's see. Okay, so now it's done some work. It's checked. So let's see what it's done. It's checked if there's any prior extraction. Hasn't found that. It does some discovery. So it detects the platform. It's currently on Wix. It's detected there's a home page, there's a partner page, there's 4 events pages. I didn't even see those. There's no store bookings, forms, members, or forum detected. It says your Wix events aren't natively transferable as a WordPress feature. Content will be extracted as regular pages, but recurring RSVP event functionality would need a plugin. And it actually then recommends a plugin. And in this case, it's recommending the events calendar. I don't know. Let's see here. Now, what I find interesting is I wonder why it's recommending the events calendar. If it's just a case of it's recommending the highest plugin in the repository, that's interesting. It would be cool if it just so what I would prefer it to do in that instance, personally, is actually just like link to, okay, it's probably the events calendar because events calendar is the top of the list. It would be cool if it rather linked to this page and then users could choose their own. But I mean, that's possibly, I wonder if that's probably the agent, the AI, like figuring that out. So that's fine. I'm actually going to make a note of that because I don't know if it's worth bringing that up. So in my notes over here, I'm going to say, actually, I'll pull the notes over so you can read this. You can actually see what I'm doing. Should Studio Code be recommending plugins? Now, what's interesting about this, you'll notice that it actually does recommend or talks about WooCommerce, I think. Yeah, so, okay. we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm getting ahead of myself again. So this is a small site, 6 pages, extraction capture should be quick either way. Now it does like a mandatory path checkpoint. So what it does, it says to you, how do you want the site to be reconstructed? Do you want the site to be reconstructed as a theme? So in other words, it'll create a block theme. It'll be a high fidelity replica of the source, raw HTML editable, not block editable. Find out what that means. Imports product data, product pages, fall back to default WooCommerce. That was saying talks about WooCommerce, not a carried replica. So there's that. The other one is blocks and products, so WordPress native blocks and navigation and WooCommerce product pages. Best launchpad for redesign. So it sounds like what that does is it creates the pages and the products, but doesn't create a separate theme. So I wouldn't mind running this test twice and seeing what the two differences are. You'll notice it does recommend WooCommerce, and I think that's okay because at Automatic we own WooCommerce, so that makes sense from a marketing point of view. But it would be cool if it recommended others, but I understand why it's using WooCommerce. I can't complain about that. But yeah, I just think it should recommend either it should recommend an Automatic product if it's going to stick with that kind of theme, or it should recommend a couple of calendar because we're basically giving another company like free advertising. But that's a marketing decision. That's not a me decision. Okay, so I'm going to start by going with theme application for this one. I want to see what it does, what it creates, and then maybe we'll come back and do blocks and products afterwards and see what that does, depending on how much time we have. And then once I tell it theme application, it essentially goes off and starts doing its thing. So it does things like get site info. It checks the local site. I think it'll actually determine if you have a local site or not, and if you don't, it'll actually create one. And then it starts basically running things. So there's this Liberate extract. I want to see if we can find that in here. Let's see here. Liberate extract. Her tools are named Liberate Detect, the MCP server. So editing the source. Okay, so it takes the platform, discovers the pages, then it starts pulling the content. So for each page, the platform's adapter fetches and passes it into clean, structured content. Title, slug, body, exit, date, image references, categories, and tags. A shared loop handles the correct coding concerns, naming, fetch in parallel, fair limiting. Okay, and streaming. Content can be flushed per page. The result is a standard WordPress import file. So that WXR import file, covering pages, posts, products, attachments, menus, and all of that. Looks like it does some special Shopify work. Then it starts grabbing media. So this is where I would like to maybe see more info about these steps. So probably right now it's doing the content step. So it'd be cool if it said pulling content or whatever the case is. So let me make a note of that. Okay, so I'm going to just number this. No, I don't have numbering here. I'm going to checkbox this. Then I say it would be ideal to share updates on every. Okay, so you see, so it looks like it's generated the output. See, now here you see what I'm saying. So I did all of this and then verified the data and verified the media download, but I didn't know that was happening. That would be cool to see. So like more updates about what it's doing would be cool. Share updates on every liberate extract step. So that would be cool to see. I'm gonna definitely bring that one up. I don't know. It's creating this liberations thing. So let's go and see what that is. I'm gonna need to open Studio Egg Chasers. Oh wait, there it is. Liberations. Oh cool. Creates a folder called Liberations. You see, so it does start creating something. So it'd be cool to see that process. So something like, you know, creating that location or whatever the case is. I don't know whether that would require like hectic AI work. So here it's actually starting to give us more input. So it's actually running commands. So that's a little bit better. Now it's doing Liberate preview. But then it still sits in, you know, so I don't know, maybe it's not possible to give that much information back. But let's see. I'll raise the idea. So let's see what it creates. I love diving into the how of things. So it looks like it actually will generate HTML pages. Wow, so it actually creates like a local copy of the site. That's pretty sweet. I do wonder about rate limits. So I'm going to put a question here. Because what you don't want to have is you don't want to have your studio code causing it to get the rate limited, and suddenly you can't pull data anymore. It also does a bunch of JSON. I wonder if this is related to the platform. Possibly. There's different sections. There's different screenshots. Oh, it actually takes screenshots. It takes screenshots of the different platforms. Interesting. To get an idea of what it looks like. Yeah, interesting. Okay. It grabs the mobile versions of the website. And then it has a blueprint. So this is, okay, so this is a playground blueprint or a studio blueprint, I guess. So I wonder if it's, interesting. WordPress importer plugin. What does that do? Is that just the standard WordPress importer? Yeah, that seems to be the case. Yeah, it's just the standard WordPress. So essentially what it looks like it's doing, it looks like it's turning... Oh, it looks like it's got... Oh, it's... Okay, let's see what it's doing here. So there's a known media heavy timeout issue. So then it does some things there. Okay. So there's the site. Let's see what the site looks like. So let's close this. This folder. Let's open up egg chasers. Oh, okay, that's annoying. It's gone and created a brand new site. I kind of wanted to create an existing site. I wonder why I did that. Interesting. Created a new local site instead of using the existing one. Maybe it can't. Maybe it needs to run the site with something. I don't know, but we're finding out. Okay. So now it's swapped the pages. It's activating the theme. It's just using WP-CLI, setting up options. That's pretty cool. So let's go and have a look at what that's actually doing. Okay, so there's some things happening there. Don't know what that is. Let's go content, themes. Okay, so there's our theme. So it's a pretty standard block theme. it has some stuff in the functions. It looks like there's some custom styling happening here. Okay, yeah, there's custom styling happening, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. What is nice is it does look like it's creating a block theme, so it should be okay. And there's some stuff in functions. It's just looking like it's doing some specific things in functions. It's the end of the world. Okay, so let's see how far that's going. It's still. Now this is interesting. Like it's to my mind, it feels like it's updating the site option and taking like a long time. I don't understand why it's taking so long. But let's go over to the site itself that it created. And let's see. No, still busy with the site option. Okay, there we go. Theme was already activated. Now flushing the rewrite rules, something you always have to do. And then it verifies the site. I feel like what would be better, instead of like this Claude code type stuff, like typesetting and it would actually be like a message saying fetching site info or whatever. I just think giving the user more feedback in the process would be better. But let's see what the output is. Okay. So let's see what's happening here. Egg chasers carry. That's not looking great in the preview. But let's see what this thing can finish. Like right now, I want to know, why is this getting site info thing taking so long? Is there maybe there's some kind of log somewhere that I can inspect? I don't know, but it would be nice if there was. Okay, that's all studio related stuff. Let's see what's inside of. What is this DLA editable HTML? DLA editable HTML block. Editable HTML island block emitted by the data. Okay, so there's actually a block that it adds. Interesting. So it's an editable HTML block that it adds. It's interesting. Okay. I wonder why it's DLA. Who's DLA, I wonder? Something happened. What happened? Okay. Interesting. So during the rewrite flush, the database encountered corruption errors. Database disk image is malformed, likely triggered by WooCommerce comments being present in this blueprint and heavy write convention. Okay. Now that's another question. Why does it add WooCommerce if I asked for the theme build? So now it's verifying the site state, taking a screenshot. The malformed database errors are concerning, but many appear to be recoverable transient cache writes. WooCommerce feature detection transients that get noisy but don't corrupt content. However, the front page setting didn't stick and the home page is rendering mostly blank below the hero. I saw that. Let me retry setting the front page and check content status. I'm getting a call, so give me a sec. Folks, I'm going to have to bail. There's a delivery for me. Their timing is terrible. I'll be back in 2 minutes. You can watch what's happening while I'm away. Alrighty. Hey, Nigel, welcome. Yeah, it does seem to be moving a lot quicker. I will say this. I'm actually kind of glad that call happened because it kind of proves an interesting point that this is one of the cool things about using agents is if you can get them to do some of the like boring stuff on their own, you can go off and to make coffee or do something else. So yeah, that was quite interesting that happened. This just carries on doing its thing. I do think that's kind of the big, for me at least, that's the big sort of benefit of using agents to do tasks is if you can get them to do all the hard work, and you can just focus on what you're doing, you get more done at the same time. I'm just moving around some things on my teleprompter here because I can't see your comments properly. So I'm going to do that. There we go. Let's make it that one. All right. Okay, so let's see what it did while I was away. It managed to both settings stuck this time, no SQLite errors. Interesting. Flushing rule right rules. That seemed to work. I wonder why it freaked out. The homepage now rents. Oh, I wonder if I should see something. Ooh, stuff has changed. I just want to check something on the site settings. I wonder if it's because it created it as a sandbox and not native. So if you don't know what that's about, let me just make a note. Does it create in sandbox on purpose? So Studio recently launched the option to switch your website from what they call sandbox mode, which is using Playground under the hood, to a native PHP version. I wonder if that's the reason it created the site, because it can't use the native PHP. So versus native. I'm going to ask these questions and find out. But it does seem to be, so let's see, it figured out that problem. It renders the home page. Now it did some regression testing to compare this against the screenshots. It's now rendering excellently, all of that. So now it's basically just checking whether what was created matches the screenshots. So that's interesting. What's nice about the screenshots is it means it's not comparing it to the live site. The downside is it's not comparing it to the live site, so there might still be some differences. Pages rendering, Wix design, migration is essentially complete. Let me do a final verification pass, checking navigations, link work, and confirming no. So it's actually doing quite a lot of checks as well, which is nice. Okay. I want to go back to that error that it encountered. Yeah, I didn't do anything. I want to see something here. I created the site. Interesting to know why I created a new site. I want to find that out. Okay, so it looks like we're done. So migration complete. Successfully migrated to the local studio site using the theme replication approach. It would be ideal if it didn't have to do this. So I wonder why that happened. I might want to mention that. Did the verification. One thing the work happened there. A separate site from that. I'm just curious to know why it did that, but I can follow up on that later. What I do want to do is leave that there for now. Let's go and have a look at the site. So here is our site. Let's have a look at the local site. Okay, so what we're going to do, it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. I'm going to put this over on this side. Wait, actually, I've got a better idea. So let's do this. Let's close this down. Let's close that down. Let's close that down. And you can do tabs now. So add a tab in new split view. And let's pop that there. And now we get them side by side, and you'll see that, first of all, this modal doesn't seem to be coming up. Okay. There's definitely some differences, right? If I look at this, this has a slightly different kind of background to this. This looks like some kind of overlay that isn't showing up. It also doesn't have, if we, it's not doing it now, but if we refresh this, so there's this animation missing. And then look, this does like an animation as I scroll down. This doesn't have that. But the content is there. It's just the backgrounds that are slightly out. It looks like it's using this background in the whole thing here, and it doesn't have whatever this background is. I wonder if that's got to do with the screenshots. We'll have a look in a second. But it does have the content. It's got the mailing list stuff. So it's got all of that. This, the preferred city pop-up is coming up. It's not. So there's obviously a bit of JavaScript needs to happen. There's probably errors somewhere there. But otherwise, the rest looks pretty decent. I say pretty decent. There are some essential things missing. Let's have a look at the partner page. So the partner page looks okay. It's got the same JavaScript issue there. That looks pretty okay. Let's have a look at the events pages. I didn't stumble across those events initially, so I'm not sure why they were there. Let's have a look in Studio. Go to WP admin. Let's go to pages. So there's additional pages that, so this breakfast with rugby legends, database might need to be repaired. Database just broke. Now is this a Studio thing? Is the Studio being dumb? Let's try that again. The site just died. That's frustrating. Anyway. I wonder why that happened. Okay, well. Database corruption issues. Is this Studio? Playground? Anyway. So I'd be interested to know what this is. It's probably some kind of like JavaScript animation that it couldn't pull. So what should we say here? This is maybe 50% of the work done. There's definitely some fixes that are needed. Like this image is not looking exactly the same. This background, this whole thing, this pop-up. But a lot of it is already there. This was a very simple site. So, I wonder how the coffee festival would go. Should we try the coffee festival? Let's give it a try. This one does have some animations and things. I think that might be a video. Let's have a look. It's a Wix video, yeah. So I don't know how it's going to handle video. So let's try Coffee Festival. So what I'm going to do now. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to basically grab this whole output into a text file. Just for my own references for later. The other thing I want to mention, let's just finish copying this. I'm going to stick this into, where am I going to stick this? Not there. I want to close this. I want to open the Liberations one. Yeah. So here's a question. Let's have a look at the screenshots. Let's go homepage. So you see, it should have even had that thing. That's why it's created that like that, because it's working from the screenshots. Now that is probably like a JavaScript dropdown. See, so that's what's going on there. So working from the screenshots there is not great, but it does have. If we look at the screenshots do have that image, and they have that background image. So it kind of did have this one. I wonder. Let's have a look. Yeah, it pulled that one, but it didn't pull the. Look at that. Close. This is the real one. Let me close this and drag this into here. No. See, there's this respect the game stuff. And oh, it does have it. Okay, it does have it there. All right, that's fine. I didn't see that on there. It also doesn't have this, whatever this is. For some reason on, oh, probably because the site just broke. Okay. Homepage scrolled. Our partner was more easy, but again, the drop down. Events list. See, those pages aren't even linked up in the main site. We found them. Event list. I wonder where it pulled that from. I can't now check the other one because it broke. I didn't see events anywhere on here. Just this partner sponsor. So it's interesting that it picked up events. It's probably in an XML file somewhere. Okay. All right. So kind of missing some of the main stuff on the homepage. Didn't really work this out because of the screenshots. It's interesting. Let's try this one. Let's see if this one has, this one doesn't have that kind of thing. Let's see the contact form. That's got some menu stuff happening that might freak out. It doesn't have any drop downs, so it might do better with that. I am interested to see what it does with the media. So let's grab this one. And I'm going to delete this site because it didn't use it for some reason. So let's delete that site. We'll leave that there. And let's go and start a new. The other thing I wanted to mention. So it took 18,076 seconds. So 18,076 seconds in minutes. So that's approximately half an hour that it took to give us a fairly basic site. I haven't got it open now. And not all the data. So something to think about if you're going to use this. Let's see this one. Let's see how long this takes. So let's go back to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the context. And I'm going to liberate this site. And let's see what happens. I do like the fact that it keeps all of this. I mean, you could theoretically open this with a browser. So let's do that. So let's go to Studio, Liberations, Chasers, HTML. Let's see what happens. Open with Brave. See there, it's got that. It doesn't have the like cool animation thing in, but it's got this image as part of it. So you could just use this. You would have to fix this with some JavaScript. But it has at least got this happening. So it's interesting that it didn't pull that. Go to the partner page. Yeah. Same vibes. So yeah, it's pretty good at that part. So if nothing else, you could use all of this. But you'd have to be a developer to do that. So from a development point of view, which is why we do this stuff, as a developer, it'd be interesting. I wonder if you could do Liberation without creating the new site somehow. And then, interesting. Definitely doesn't look like it pulls over any JavaScript functionality, which kind of makes sense, but kind of doesn't. So I'm going to make a note of that as well. JavaScript interactivity. Okay. Let's see what's happening. So again, Wix, this time 17 pages, 2 events, 1 homepage. No store booking forms detected as transferable features before the content. Marketing event site, not a shop. I'm going to go with theme replication again because this isn't a store. So let's do that. Let's see if it'll do a better job with this one. I wouldn't mind doing a store at some point, but I don't know of any stores that I yet have permission to do this with. So here's the thing, like, it's perfectly acceptable for me to show you someone's website, but to start pulling their data and content means I could be pulling their copyrighted data and content, and that's kind of not allowed. So I had to ask permission to do what I'm doing today. So I need to find somebody who has an e-commerce store hosted on something like Shopify or one of those places, and see if they will let me use their site as a test. So maybe I'll do that in the future. Okay, so Nigel has a question. I missed something. Where is the AI? As in, where are the tokens coming from? Okay, so that's a great question. So WordPress Studio recently launched Studio Code. So this is built into WordPress Studio. So if you have WordPress Studio installed, you can either run it from the interface. You can just click Studio Code and there it goes. Or you can run in your terminal. I'll show you quickly now. I don't mind doing this again. You can just run Studio Code and it'll start Studio Code. In terms of where the tokens come from, this is basically using an Automatic or WordPress.com API endpoint. So essentially, Automatic is funding this at the moment. You will see that I think it's in the change log. Studio Code was recently updated to use GPT 5.6 Sol. So that's the current model that it uses. I think you can change models. Yeah, there's Opus and 5.6, so you can use those. But essentially, the Automatic is paying for this. This is currently in beta, so use it while you can for free. And it probably will be tied to some kind of paid plan in the future. What that paid plan looks like, I don't know. But it is currently a beta feature. You'll see if you go to Studio Code, currently in beta, features, capabilities, and usage limits may change as it evolves. So now is a great time to download Studio and try out Studio Code. And you can build themes, you can build plugins, create a block, custom post type, whatever you want while it's free, because it ain't going to be free for long. So try and get into it now, get using it now, and then let me know your feedback. I work with the Studio team. This is one of the reasons I'm doing this live stream today on Studio, because I wanted to check out this feature. So I would love to hear what works, what doesn't work, what you think it needs. You can find me in all the usual places on social media, on Slack, wherever. But another good place to share information is in the Studio GitHub repository, which is at automatic.studio. You can log issues there. You can create feature requests, whatever the case may be. So if you're interested in checking it out, check it out. Get it while it's good is the old saying. Okay, so you see this thing is still doing stuff and not telling me what it's doing, which I hate. No problem, Nigel. What would be really cool is for those of you who are exploring agentic WordPress development is to use Studio for trying out building plugins, building themes, your next project, a small project you're working on. I would love to hear what you think works, what you think doesn't work. Like what would convince you to pay for this feature, essentially. Like right now it's free, and as we can see, it doesn't work 100%. At least Liberation doesn't 100% work. But of all the functionality that this enables, what would make you be willing to pay for it? Because essentially somebody has to foot the bill for the tokens, as you've pointed out. But yeah, now would be a great time to try this. And I have no idea what the usage limits are. I don't even know if, I wonder if there's a / command for usage. No, there is not. So it might just, kick you off. It might be tied to some like Sonnet free tier. I have no idea. But yeah, let me know your feedback, or let the team know your feedback. This thing is still taking its time. This part would be cool to say. Like this captures all pages, so this is probably going to be creating another one of these. Let's have a look. Yeah, there it is. Coffee Festival. So it looks like the media is the big issue there. It makes complete sense. There's lots of images probably. There's maybe some video. So that's going to take time. So I would even just appreciate seeing like each media file coming down, each local page being created. Let's make a note of that. Show feedback of each item being created in the, what is this, extraction step or something. Riad, welcome. Thanks for joining, man. So you don't know, Riad is here. He's one of the developers on this. He says, go to the settings of the app. You'll see the limits. Awesome. So I'm going to assume this is Studio. Oh, yes, of course. There is that page. I remember it now. If I go to my account, there we go. Yes, thank you, Riad. I did see it the other day and I completely forgot. So there it is. I've currently used 5% of my monthly limit. Cool. I've used this maybe for a week. So that means I've got a pretty big limit. Resets on the 1st of August, like pretty much any AI tool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Riad. I appreciate you being here. I have a whole bunch of notes I'm going to share with you and the rest of the team after this. So expect lots of feedback. It's always great. You can ask Ryan. It's always great when one of the developers of one of the products you're streaming comes and joins you, because then you know they're watching. I used to get very nervous when that happened, but now I don't care. Okay. So it's still doing replication, still doing extraction. As I say, this has probably got a lot of media, this site. Yeah, looks like it. Looks like it's all the medias. This also made me realize I need a notification when people chat. It's a pleasure, my friend. I'm literally just one-shotting it today, so we'll see what happens. Riad, I don't know if you saw earlier, but earlier we actually had a crash on the first site that I created. I don't know if this is related to Studio or Playground, but at some point the site started erroring. During the export process, there was a database thing, and then it started giving this. So I'm gonna feed this back to the team and just try and figure out where the problem happened. But I don't know if you've ever seen this, so I will share the logs and everything else. That's why we're trying another site, a bigger one. Okay. Still liberating data. How much media does this thing have? Wow. Lots of files. I wonder how big these things are. Some of them are like 15 megs. Who has images that big? Good grief. Oh, okay. It's like shots from shows and stuff. Fair enough. Probably find it's like the original image and then there's like a scaled down version of it somewhere and all of that. So yeah, I guess that's going to take a while. Cool. So Riad says nothing obvious like that. What I would try to fix starting sites sometimes is to run Studio site stop all, which is supposed to stop the running and the process handles them and try again. But really here, I don't know too much about all good. I did try stopping it and starting again. I think maybe something went wrong somewhere in the process, but no worries if you've never seen it. I've seen it from time to time where the database freaks out and gets corrupt, but not that often. So I don't think it's related to Studio Code. We'll see if it happens again on this one. It is essentially I'm just sharing this. You don't have to do anything with this information. But it was when it ran, when it wanted to flush the rewrite rules, something somewhere went wrong. But I'll feed this all back. We can deal with it then. We don't have to deal with it now. Okay, so that seems to have gotten all the images. Oh, I see. Okay, we'll try that after this and see if it fixes the site. I don't want to do that while I'm doing this. Okay, so 20 pages, 220 media files. Good grief. And some of them are pretty big media files at that. Flip. Okay. So now it's doing all of that. Now it's doing the screenshots. Show site stop all. Oh, that's what you meant by and the process that handles them. Got it. Got it. So now it's creating all of these. It's got the screenshots. It's creating the mobile pages, the HTML pages. I have to say, this is a pretty cool step, the fact that it does all of this. Because even if the switch into Studio breaks, I can take all of that and do something with it. Which is kind of nice. Okay, so it's done all of that. So there was a failure. The other thing I like about Studio Code, and I'm pretty sure this happens by default. I don't think this is something that I had any involvement in, but it does quite a bit on its own, especially the Liberate command. Like I don't have to allow things to happen. And that's probably because what it's doing is safe. It's just creating files, it's downloading files. It's not running any executable code. So I can just, so Riad, you'll appreciate this. The previous site, I had a phone call halfway through and a delivery arrived and I could just get up, walk away and let Liberate carry on doing its thing. So yeah, this is very much something that you can just trigger and leave and walk away from. And it'll just do its thing. Okay, so it's created the Coffee Festival site for us. So there it is. Now run the carrier reconstruct. So now, if we have a look at Studio, Coffee Festival, content, themes. Okay, let's not really see themes soon enough, probably. Contents. Oh, it looks like it migrates all the images into the uploads folder first. Interesting. Oh, and the HTML. Cool. Yeah, the one sort of big piece of feedback I have is to, if it's possible, to give more information, more feedback to the user. So like maybe now it could be saying, migrating uploads, or whatever, while these things are happening, or uploading, creating, what it took, creating, just more info, because otherwise you're just staring at this word. I don't know how possible that is, but that's kind of the one big thing that I think would make this a little bit more useful for users. Because I definitely am the kind of person, I would trigger this and then go off and work on something else. But every few minutes, I would want to pop over and see if something's changed. And if I see like some new information, so between this and that, some kind of updates, that would be useful. I agree with you on that one as well, though. Like, what is the default verbosity? The default response to that is maybe make that a configurable setting. But we prefer decisions over options. So I completely understand that discussion. This feels like one of those. Can you make it slightly more verbose? Can you make it slightly more green? Can you make it slightly bigger? Conversations. For the one thing that I feel like is just these sort of Claude Code style like verbs. I feel like if those were just more descriptive, so like verifying pages, moving media, just those I think would help, because then I can see at each step what overall action has been done. I grabbed the previous site, all of the sort of output from the terminal. So I'm going to make some suggestions, and we can chat about that in an issue somewhere. So I'm guessing this step is like doing like a list page and check thing. So maybe just like verifying all pages would be more useful than just one word, one sort of, is it a verb? Hooking? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. There's a specific term for it that I can't think of right now. So yeah. There's Coffee Festival. There's all the theme stuff. You all probably can't feel this, but my office is exceptionally hot today for some reason. They've put the heating on quite heavy. So, Part of me wants to take my warm top off. Part of me wants to go get some water. Okay, so list pages, theme active, update option. So this is where the database went last time, flushing the permalinks. Let's see if it does it again. Gutenberging. That's funny. It's interesting. We're starting to get something here. Oh, sure. Okay, that's a very valid point to mention. As Riad says, the Liberate command is the latest thing that's been added. So expect bugs. As I said to folks in this live stream earlier, this is all very beta. So send us your feedback. Tell us what you find. We want to know. We want to make this better. It did a pretty good job on the first site. It was a very simple site. It was 2 pages. There was some images and things missing on the homepage, but I would say it maybe was like 50 to 75% of the way there, maybe even more. A few things missing. Okay, looks like this time the rewrite rule flush seems to be okay. So now it can do the parity comparison. Let's see what it finds. Curious to know something. I should have a look at my usage again. So it went from 501 to 505 just for this liberation. That's not a lot of usage. That's cool. I guess a lot of the work is just, manually moving and creating things, adding it to the right places. Okay, so it's picked up a height mismatch. Depends on the model. Keep GPT 5.6 for hard stuff only. Okay, good to know. There you have it, folks. From one of the developers of all of this. In fact, aren't you the primary developer of all the Studio Code stuff, Riad? If I'm not mistaken. I think it's you and Antonio. Okay, so it's doing things. Content's there, not rendering. Oh, there's 5. Okay. I feel like I remember seeing you were like the primary driver behind code, or do I have that wrong? Initial instance of it. Oh, my camera seems to have gone away. At least I'm not seeing it. What happened to my video camera? My camera, did I turn it off? Can you guys see my camera? That's rather annoying. My camera just stopped working. Seems to be back now. I apologize for that. I don't know why that happened. Rather annoying. Yay! What's it doing here? Content is there. What it's doing right now? Somehow it looks like it's fixing something. Oh, the main content aisle is missing. Okay, so it's looking and replacing and fixing things. I think what it's doing is it's trying to fix. If we have a look at the current site, there's like a whole homepage thing that's missing. All of this. Cool. Thanks for joining, Riad. Really appreciate it. I will definitely send you all that feedback. Enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you for joining. Folks, I'm going to head off camera quickly again and just literally grab some water because I'm dying of thirst. So, be back in 2 seconds. Can has water. Looks like it's still trying to fix this site homepage. Ah, there we go. Database corruption again. I wonder why that happens. Maybe it's just too much. Okay, I'm going to stop this right now because I don't have time to rebuild this whole site. Interesting. I'm going to guess that this has something to do with the amount of data being written to the database for a liberation. So the item is listed there already. I think that it's time for me to call this a day. What I will say is this. I think a lot of what the problem is with these things is the amount of media on these sites. So if the sites were a lot simpler, sort of your standard sort of marketing brochure sites with not a lot of media, this might work better. But give it a try. See what you can break and what issues you have, and let me know. I'm going to spend my time next week feeding this information back to the studio devs. Once I've updated the recording. But I'm not going to try and do another site right now. I think it needs to be a lot of a simpler site for it to work well. We've been sitting in now, I don't know what time we started, but at least another half an hour. So we need to figure out why the database is getting corrupted. The one thing I do want to check is, let me see if Riad's suggestion of stopping the process fixes things, because that might be part of the issue. It's just getting overrun. So cannot access parent directories. Okay, maybe I need to do it from just the root. Okay, so that's stopped it. Let's try and start egg chasers again. Nope, same issue. Okay, I'm going to call it there, folks. If you have time to play with this, please do, and let me know. Even if you just play with Studio code from a developing plugins point of view, developing themes, tweaking your theme, doing all kinds of AI things. It's built into WordPress Studio right now. You can run it from the app, from the command line, as you saw me doing today. I would love to hear your feedback. So if you have some time to play with it, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next week. I have no idea what I'm going to do next week. Maybe some more of this, depending on what changes. If not, maybe I'll fall back to some local models. I have some other ideas, but it'll be something to do with WordPress and AI. So thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye.